Anyways, I'm gonna be talking about Shang Dynasty, and my last one got cut off, so just explaining the rest of it. I left off at writing, and I'll just go over it again. They wrote on, I called it an oracle, and it was the shoulder blade of a cow, and they would burn into it, and sometimes they'd use that, like depending on like certain cracks there were and everything, they used that to talk to their ancestors. And they just wrote this, that was like basically paper for them. And then for art, it says the materials they used, like for them, I think it was bronze, not copper. Bronze was a really, really big thing for them, and they like had to use that. Well, they didn't have to, but that's what they chose to use most of the time. And they made a lot of they made bowls, cups, jewelry, basically like anything out of that they could. That was their main resource, and they used it to their full extent, so that was good for them. And then for technology, they stayed in power for a long time because of, again, they're bronze. They used almost all of their weapons, except for probably the ones they got from trades. They were all made out of bronze, and you can see how rusted they are now. If you ever see a picture of them, but they used those a lot, and it was a big thing for them because that's what kept them in power or in control as long as they did. And then so we talked about time frame, when how long they were in power. And then the capital city is where they actually discovered Shang Dynasty and how it all started. And then the government, they had it where it's their king, then the relatives of the king, and it went downhill from there until it went up to the slaves. That's more of a classes, but that's part of their government because they had to use their army to get there, and the army fought a lot, and they had a really strong army, so that was real good. And then classes, related social classes, that was more of a like how I said, they had the kings, then the relatives, and the army, and it just went downhill from there. And then religion, they talked about how they had a real good connection with their ancestors, and how they used the oracle, the shoulder blade of a cow, how they used that to talk to their ancestors and decide on when to start war, when not to, or when to go. Just simple decisions that they couldn't make themselves. And then writing, like I said, they wrote in oracles, the shoulder blade of a cow. And then their art, I didn't say this for art, but they also carved into stones. So that was not copper, bronze. That was not bronze, but they used that too. And technology stayed in power because of the way they used bronze as a resource for them, and that worked out real good for them. And that is Shang Dynasty.